Welcome to the Dr. Reilly Show. I'm your host, Dr. Reilly. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Reilly Show. I'm your host, Dr. Anissa Reilly, and it is an honor and a privilege to have you join us today as we talk about a very important and sensitive topic, issues about sexual trauma. That's right, you heard me, sexual trauma. So today we have a guest with us who's going to walk us through sexual trauma. Her name is Nikki Brown, also known as the Coochie Coach. Nikki, welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Reilly.
I am so glad and happy that you agreed to join us today to talk about a very important topic, sexual trauma. Mm-hmm. So my first question to you would be, what does sexual trauma mean to you?
Sexual trauma. Well, first of all, for me, they're two different things until they're merged. So sexual is a whole one experience, right? So that can be pleasant. That can be enjoyable. That's something that we invite into our lives, right? And then there's the traumatic piece, the piece that when it's not wanted, when it's invasive and someone comes into your space that you didn't require or ask them or any of that, and then they are merged together and then it becomes something altogether different. And so it is unwanted experience, but the traumatic part is the impact on the person. Like, how do they deal with this experience? How did this happen? Am I at fault? All these kinds of questions that comes up when someone is impacted by sexual trauma.
And what's so interesting about those terms and the way you described it so vividly, I think everyone is clear now about what sexual trauma is that women, 1 in 5 women are victims or experience sexual trauma.
Absolutely.
And I know that you are part of that statistic. So can you just share a little bit about your experience?
Well, one, I want to say something about statistics, because I have these statistics that I say when I speak in front of audiences, and I use this thing. It's every 97 seconds, someone is impacted by something that I call sexually mishandled. So we throw sexual trauma in there, but sexually mishandled could be anything from somebody fondled you that you didn't want to somebody actually took a part of your body in a way that you didn't want it to happen. So that's every 97 seconds, someone is having that experience, right? And then 97% of teenagers, right, are experiencing what they call premarital sex. I don't know what that is because most people ain't getting married, and when they do, 50% of them are getting a divorce, but whatever, right? So every 97% are experiencing that. And then you have another 97% of some other number I can't remember, but it's like something that's happening often, right? But what's not happening is like there's not a 97% of people are telling
the
right?
story.
97% of these people are getting victories over it, but people are suffering.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times it is imperative that we have safe spaces. When someone says, this has happened to me, how are they received, right? Are they looked at like, what the hell did you do?
And let me stop you right there, because when you talk about a safe space, that's the reason why we wanted to create this platform today, so that people can know that, yes, it's okay to talk about it, it's okay to share, it's important to talk about it, it's important to share, and you're not alone.
Exactly.
And those of us who have experienced some type of sexual trauma or sexual mishandling, okay, so I think that's important for people to understand. There's a sexual mishandling involved in this too, that there is an opportunity for us to be successful and not get stuck as trauma often does to certain people.
Absolutely.
So you're 1 or 97 second mishandling.
I'm a statistic, but I'm a variety of statistics. So I feel like, my 97 seconds happened when I was 8, right? Another 97 seconds happened. I know what it was. It was like every 97 seconds, somebody gets an STD or something. It's like all kinds of statistics that are happening. So, yeah, but for me, it has been, I would have to say, I had trauma that I didn't know about, right? That's called a blind spot. You got things that are happening in your life and you don't even know why, right? And so my 97 second happened at age 8, but I didn't think anything was different. But my behavior, when I look back at it, from 8 to probably 19 was reckless. But I thought, hey, I'm good. I'm going to school. I'm doing all the right things. I didn't see that as a problem. It wasn't until I started to really focus in on that issue that I was like, oh, snap, this really had an impact on my life. And so I began to address it.
So you said at 8, so a lot of women had a sexual mishandling or a traumatic experience under the age of 10. Can you just give us a little understanding of what that looks like so we can be clear in our minds as to what happened?
Well, what it typically looks like, it's a family member. It's someone close by. It's someone you trust, right? Because that's a big thing. When you're little, you trust everybody. And back then, I'm saying back then like I'm mad old, but we are. But in the 70s, it was, you can trust your cousin, you can trust your uncle, you can trust, like all of that. And they also forced children to hug people, right? Oh, go hug so-and-so. Oh, go sit on so-and-so's lap. And there was no thing, right? Whereas now they're like, if a kid or a child is like, hey, I don't feel the vibe, then we are encouraged not to support that. And we are encouraged to support the child. And so then it wasn't that, right? It was, you can trust these family members and you can go and be in their company. And so for me, it was, I couldn't tell my mother. My mother, come on, you know my mother.
I know your mother.
So my mother was not the type, and she was a single parent.
Right.
How do you come home and tell your single parent that somebody we thought we could trust has done this thing? I already have this absentee other parent, so I'm gonna now risk, because my mother's the type that believed me, right, and would kill.
And it's funny you said, I read something where, from a parent's good heart place, they tell their child, if someone does something wrong to you, if someone touches you inappropriately, let me know because I'm going to kill them. And I heard a victim of sexual trauma say, the reason why they never told was because they knew their father was going to go to jail if they killed that person.
Dude, I don't even need to say it. That's it.
So in the parent's mind, the parent was doing what he or she knew to protect their baby, but from the child's perspective, it meant my parent could go to jail and I'm going to lose my parent.
Absolutely.
So we need to think about how we are assisting our babies and children and women, which we're talking about today, more specifically, to give them the tools and the strategies and the language to do that.
That's the word, language. How are we languaging our support? Because for me, I did like you're saying, I immediately said, oh no, I can't tell my mother. She's gonna go to jail because my mother's the type that will kill a mother if they mess with me, right? So Mommy's gonna go to jail. I'm gonna be raised by God knows who, the molester's family.
Right.
Oh hell no, we can't let that happen. So let me be quiet about it. So can I fast forward a little bit?
Yeah, because my question was gonna be, so how did you know you were in the mess? Like, when did the realization happen for you that you were in a state of mess?
I was 14. I knew something was off. I was sexually
promiscuous.
Belligerent. I don't even know if the word was promiscuous. Promiscuous is the cute way of saying it, but I think that I was just reckless. And I was reckless thinking that I was being responsible or thinking that I was acting out in my own way because this is what I thought I wanted to do. But I was 14 years old. And I was in school. My mother paid for tuition, so I was in Catholic school. I was this safe space, so it seemed. And then one day, because I was acting out so much, one of the nuns invited me to therapy, and it was group therapy. And my friends were in group therapy, and so I was like, oh good, we get to go on Fridays, and we get lollipops. I was there for the Charms lollipop. I was in theater.
Those are good lollipops.
Those are good lollipops, right? I was there for the blow pop. I was like, okay, I'm gonna get a blow pop. All I gotta do is sit through this 50 minutes and get my reward.
This is what kings and queens do. This is absolutely normal. And I believed it. I believed that this was something that just happened to children. As I got older, it got more progressive. At age 15, he had sex with me. It was so much brainwashing to the point where I didn't even love myself. It made me promiscuous. It made me think that drugs were the only way out. It's like I was looking for love in all the wrong places. So I had to forgive him and move on. I'm glad to know that there's somebody that understands what it means to have your everything stripped from you. I just think it's just the best organization that they could have for people that are afraid to run, people are afraid to tell. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to tell.
So I was 14, right? I was reckless. I was in therapy, group therapy. That was like important to me. And so that is how it all started, I think. I think at 14, I started to become at least aware that something was probably awry. I mean, I really didn't address it until later on. I feel like I was resisting it for a really long time because there was who else? I mean, I didn't really talk about it even in therapy. Like, I would go and we would talk about something completely different and it would turn into a conversation about our parents. So it's like a bunch of teens talking about their parents. And we're not gonna talk about how
that's
our
the impact.
Hello, right? The trauma really where it all
comes.
begins. So yeah.
So I heard you say that the behavior that you displayed around 14, a little bit younger, although it may seem like this is who I am, this is the type of person that I am, see me, hear me, because it was so belligerent, as you say, or negligent or reckless, that is the first sign that there's something happening. And I appreciate the fact that there was an educator in your life that came in and recognized that you needed some additional assistance.
Absolutely.
And even going to therapy at 14 is not something that we do as a people, as a people of color.
And definitely not black people.
And not black, but for you as 14 to say, I'm gonna go. But if it was Charms Lollipops that bring you, then go get the Charms Lollipops and get some help.
Exactly. I mean, whatever it's gonna take.
So now we fast forward to now we're an adult. So can we share how those foundational experiences and how they were brought into your adulthood?
Oh, I mean, well, I have to say, I think that I have always naturally been the kind of person that wanted answers to things. Like, I'm going to ask the question. I'm going to say the thing that nobody's going to say. I'm going to make the room totally uncomfortable, but y'all going to deal with this right? There's no way that I probably could have been here without that 14-year-old experience. Even if I didn't go do anything after that, that foundation of there's another way to deal and handle. So I did some transformational work at like 35, so 14 to 35.
21 years.
That I finally was like, okay, I'm gonna address this. And I sent a letter to my abuser. An email, no doubt.
Ooh, that's deep.
And hell, I was just learning how to use email at 35. I was like, yeah, I know it's been around for a while, but I'm.
Wow.
So I sent an email. I don't know how I got his email address.
Let me pause you there for 1 second.
Yeah.
We got to take a minute right there because that is a moment of courage.
This would go on for hours, and when I would cry, or when I would scream, or when I would struggle, he'd like hit me over and over and over again to break me. After being married to someone who was abusive for 15 years, I walked away with nothing. I decided I was gonna heal myself. I would become a champion. I would take all this hurt, all this pain, and turn it into something uniquely positive. Or when someone calls you and takes you back to that place, like I feel like my heart could just come out of my chest sometimes. When you let go of shame, you're free.
So writing a letter to your abuser takes courage. So just can you share with us with that letter?
Well, first of all, I have to say, like I said, I did this transformational work, right? And so at 35, and if at 14 I started the therapy that I didn't continue, but 35 going to this transformational session, there was a letter writing portion. And so we did letters like to our parents and all that, like healing your childhood. So I was like, okay, great. Then I was like, what if I wrote a letter to old dude? So I did that. And in the letter, I basically took it. Now, it was my cousin. He's 16, I'm 8. Y'all know the math.
Always happens.
Right? So for me, it was like, you was an old mofo. You knew better. There ain't no accident, ain't no oops, right? So in my mind, it was, I needed to clear that. I didn't know that was a thing. Now I knew it was a thing that had been playing out.
So let me stop you right there because I think that's important, because sometimes 8-year-old children or even young children think that it's acceptable when a family member that's a little bit older than you does that.
Absolutely.
So not knowing it was a thing at 8 is permission to realize that you can now know as an adult, I need some help.
Well, here, the other part I want to say about being sexually mishandled, fondled, whatever the hell people want to try to segment it, is that there's a part of your body that likes it. It's totally wrong what's happening, but there's a part of you that's like, well, maybe it feels good. I'm a human being. And in my case, it was like, oh, I identified that I probably like boys. He just happened to be not the boy I should probably have a liking for. And so by the time I get to 35 and I want to describe to him in this letter, because I started telling him, remember when I was 8? Yeah, you were 16. But I said it in my wonderful Dean of Student Affairs
35-year-old
voice, but very descriptive.
Impact.
Exactly. Like, I was 8, you were 16, and this went on from 8 to like 13 or something. So it's like I had to give him that.
So let me stop you. So you said from 8 to 13. So was it just sexual mishandling? Was it intercourse? What?
Because you know I'm gonna come back with another question. I know what you're asking, but are you asking was his penis? No, his penis never was in me. Not that, right? But it was my 16-year-old cousin.
Right. So we can be clear about what happened, so that way we know what was he doing.
Touching me, feeling me, hands all up in me. But here's what I want to say, because I need parents to understand this, right? Because the question you ask is what my cousin wanted to know later on in life when I said to her, yo, your cousin is trifling. Or when I said to his sister, your brother needs to be checked.
And the reason why I want to stop us here and really make this clear is that there are a certain sect of people who believe if there's no penetration, then nothing happened.
If there's no penis to vagina, or penis to anus, right? Or women do it to boys, right? We think that if that didn't happen, then it's not really molestation. Oh, it wasn't that bad. It's like saying to a person who gets gets assaulted by their husband. So, well, he just cursed you out. He ain't really punch you in your face.
Well, that's your husband. How can he really do something?
Right. But his words are just as deadly as his fists punching you in your jaw and making you having to get it rewired.
So that's why I want us to pause right here so we could be clear that good touch, bad touch. That's how we teach 5-year-olds, good touch, bad touch. And so just because there is no penis to vagina interaction, penetration, or anywhere else, that doesn't mean that you aren't a victim.
Absolutely. And hand to vagina is victimization all the same. Because if it's not warranted, if I didn't ask you, if I'm not consenting to this, then there is an invasion, right, of my innocence, if for nothing else. Right? Because I didn't know anything about that. I just know about me having my own body and keeping it pushing. And so I think, that's what I talk about just in general. I share my story because I think that other people get an opportunity to get free from their story, but I also don't try to minimize what happened because that's what the people who didn't have the experience do. So I can't re-victimize, re-traumatize my own damn self and trying to act like the story wasn't that deep. And my cousin would be like, well, did he, well, Nikki, he did, well, did he? I said, chick. He's 8 years older than me. Now, if I tried to date somebody 8 years older than me,
there would be a problem.
At 16, my mother would have been like, no, you ain't bringing that man in here to do nothing, right? So the same is true when you're 8.
Right.
And so, can I tell you, something happened at 19, though.
Go ahead, if you want to share.
So at 19, I saw this person for the last time probably in my life before I saw him at 47. And he touched me. Like, it was eerie. I don't know how this even happened. It was like, we were in college, and I'm at my aunt's house. It's Mother's Day. All of the aunts leave the house. I didn't want to go to church. I didn't think this psycho was in the house. I'm thinking, I don't want to go to church. That's all I thought. I just drove down from Maryland. I don't want to go to church. So I ended up being in the house with him, and he was in the same room as me, and I had always made sure that I wouldn't be in the same room with him. And he put his hand on my shoulder. It was like ice. And in that moment, I had so much courage and power. Like I said, if you don't get your hand off of me, I will kill you. And I walked out of the room, and I found some place to be. This is my aunt's house, so I'm like, I'm in some other part of the house, and I stayed there almost like safe until the rest of the family came. And I was like, I gotta tell my mother. And again, I still waited. I didn't tell her till I was like 21 years old.
I want to say thank you for providing that description, because I had a cousin too. And it was no penetration, it was no fingering, but the acts that he perpetrated against me, I can honestly say right now that I was sexually mishandled by him.
Come on.
And I knew it. But because society has defined it as what we described it before, I always grappled with that in my mind, and I never wanted to accuse him. But as I sit here today listening to your story, he abused me.
Absolutely.
Because even to this day, his hugs, I'm like, nigga, don't touch me.
Right. No, wait. So talk about to this day. So you think, so I told you I went through all this. Oh, I went through transformation. I'm going on this journey, right? Life is so great. I'm up in the Berkshire Mountains, sitting up there for 10 days in silence. I'm doing a whole lot of healing, right? Whole lot of healing therapy. What year is this? 2020? So 2018, my aunt has this birthday party, and it's a big deal. She's turning 70. Now, by this time, everybody knows. I done told the whole damn family. I didn't tell, only person I didn't tell, I call him my like twin cousin, because we were born in the same year, but we're 8 months apart. He was the only person in the family, immediate family, who didn't know about this person. We're sitting there, my aunt's at the microphone, she's excited that she's having this birthday, and she's acknowledging all of the people. Now, it's a storm, a rainstorm outside. Everybody's come from all different places to come and celebrate her 70th birthday. And she acknowledges who I call the Grim Reaper, about how he came from blah, blah, blah to celebrate her birthday. And I'm like, word? My mother came from New York. You ain't even recognize her, and that's your sister. So this is what's happening in my mind. I'm like, did she just So at that moment, I got to tell my twin cousin what happened, because I just couldn't sit with it. And I'm telling him, and we're like 47 years old, 46 years old, and he's bawling. He's in tears, like, oh my God, Nikki, I can't believe that you experienced this. I didn't know. I was like, yeah, because you was on your own journey. And so I think what has to happen is, one, there has to be, because I have to be honest. My mother, to her credit, I mean, like, she loved the shit out of me, right? She would do anything for me, and she didn't know how to deal with it, right? Because she had seen this person after.
So let me stop you there, because I think that piece is what brings us to what we see on your shirt.
Yes. The Coochie Coach.
The Coochie Coach.
How did I write?
So how did we get to the Coochie Coach, and as we still are processing? So take us on that journey.
I mean, I've always been. I think that exposure or that experience was negative, but it also had me embrace something about myself. You talked about sexual. I'm sexual. Always been sexual. Ain't gonna never not be sexual, right?
Amen.
Like, it is therapeutic. And so I think it gave me the license, right, to get the support, to get the healing, to continue to do all my transformational stuff. But it also gave me this freedom, like, yo, you're not the only one who's ever gone through this, and God gave you a voice to speak about it in a way that other people just won't, right? And so I started on this journey, and it started off, I was like, I'm gonna do womb university. I did this womb healing. I've gone on this womb journey, and I was like, chick, that's not you. It couldn't even birth it because it just didn't seem authentic. And then I had like what they call it, like a focus group came to my house, and I was like, come on, y'all, we're gonna talk about this. We're gonna talk about what we're gonna talk about, Nikki. We're gonna talk about sex. We're gonna talk about right? We're gonna do that. So at that meeting, it became My P Matters.
I
Right?
remember that.
I took the U out because I thought I was doing something, but right? And so that was great. I rode on that for a while. I had events. I had T-shirts at home that says it. #. And then I said, oh shoot, I have a little girl.
Yeah.
My daughter has to be able to articulate who and what her mother does without getting the feedback.
Right.
And so my little 4, 3-year-old needed to be able to say what her mother did with confidence, and I needed her to be able to defend if somebody ever challenged her. Well, she couldn't defend the P word.
The P word,
right? At 3 and 4. But she could defend Coochie, right? Because we teach her, say poo-poo, say this, right? All these other
these cute words.
Girl, cookie and all that, until somebody's eating your cookie and you don't pay attention, parent, and you're not listening to your child, right? So I said with my friend one day, I was like, listen, I think I want to be the Coochie coach. And she was like, I like it. I was like, no, but do you hear me? I am the Coochie coach. And she was like, okay, cool. I like it. Let's roll with it.
So
that's what I
in
did.
about 1 minute, can you just say, what does the Coochie coach do, and what can the Coochie coach do for us?
Just what I did just now. Tell you what. Tell you how to. We talk about, like, really not tell you, right? I walk with you, like, I've been through some. Right? So you get the experience that I've been through something. I can support you with going through something, and there is no getting anywhere. We will be wherever we be through this process. And then it's about freedom, right? How do we go from trials and tribulations to a triumphant experience sexually in the bedroom and beyond.
So if any of you out there are connecting to any part of our stories that we shared, I would love for you to reach out to the Ask Dr. Reilly show.
Absolutely.
We'll give you the information to the Coochie coach. This is my girl, Nikki. As you can see, we keep it open, honest, and transparent, and we will provide you with some support and some assistance. Please know, if you've been sexually mishandled or sexually traumatized, there is assistance and there is help. So I'm gonna allow her now to give her contact information so that you can write it down and you can reach out to her. So
I'm a real person. So I'm old school. I like phone calls.
Okay.
So you can call me, right? 646-399-3352. And if you're one of those people that's just not quite ready to have a conversation, there's always thecoochiecoach@gmail.com. And I'm on the gram. Who's not on the gram?
Get on the gram.
Everybody's on the gram at the Coochie Coach. But reach me, everything social media, Twitter, Facebook. I'm at the Coochie Coach and at the Coochie Coach podcast.
Yes, and wait a minute, you do conferences.
Yes.
So is there one coming up soon?
I should be having. Well, now we got to get out of this COVID thing.
Yeah,
I like live stuff, so I played around with the Zoom in October possibly, and it's cool. Everything is called Coochie Con, right? It's the Coochie conversation, and it's the con for the Coochie. But anyway, but yeah, so all things Coochie. At the Coochie
I'm
Coach.
sure you'll remember the Coochie Coach. Coochie Con. Look on Instagram, look on Facebook. Ask Dr. Reilly will have the information up. You have her contact information. So if your Coochie needs a convo because you've been do some stuff, contact my girl Nikki. That's the Ask Dr. Reilly show. I thank you for joining in. And the purpose for all of this is to make sure that you are better for who you are and you can do the things that you want to do. We're out, people. Love y'all.
Peace.
Next time on the Ask Dr. Reilly show, we have guest Dr. Maloney Hunter as she sits down and describes how she overcame sexual trauma.
I had to teach myself how to forgive and move on. I've learned to not take ownership of it at all. So once I did that was when I learned how to forgive him.
I'm your host, Dr. Anissa Reilly.